So what is the best Western ever made? There's a few. I really like The Outlaw Josie Wales. I really like a fairly recent movie called Hostiles. I really like that. But that's not the best Western ever made. No, the best Western ever made was made in 1959. It starred John Wayne. It's not simply because it's a John Wayne movie, but that it goes towards the fact that made in 59, the peak of cowboy movies. You know, Hollywood started making cowboy movies. Tom Mix, silent era. They invented the gunslinger rig because in real life the holsters were up here on the belt. They created all sorts of rubbish and myth. They made all sorts of tall stories about Wyatt Earp. But what a niche that was, the Western movie. Look at Randolph Scott, made his entire career based on the B-grade movie that was the second movie put on with the prime movie. When you went to the movies, you saw two. One of them was a B-grade. Usually it was a Western. More often than not, it starred Randolph Scott and the gorgeous, the stunning, the sexy, the absolute pin-up babe of all time, Stardust, that gorgeous horse that Randolph Scott rode. So where are we at? We're at 1959 and we've got the epitome era of the Western. We're in colour. We've got Big John Wayne in the lead role. We've also got another actor that's pretty damn good who's been in a few really good Westerns and has more to go on his repertoire, on his resume, And that's William Holden. Whew. Pretty damn good actor. Brilliant in Bridge on the River Kwai. Let's not get too sidetracked. So we've got two great actors and a colour and a great era, and things are great for the Western movie. And then we have got Mr. John Ford, 6-time Academy Award winner, 4 Academy Awards for Best Director, former American military in the Navy in World War II, the Pacific and Europe Theatre. Fabulous director, John Ford. Then we have a really good book that was based on an actual event that really happened. And then we have the screenplay made from that book, and the screenplay is written in part by someone that's been writing screenplays since the early start of silent movies. And they look at some of the aspects of the book and the historical event, the real actual event that happened, and they say, okay, some of these things, the majority of our audience are not going to be historians or people interested in historical accuracy. They want some excitement. So they changed a few things. We'll get to that more. But the fact is, all of this is coming together really well for a great movie. And yes, the greatest Western ever made is John Ford's The Horse Soldiers, starring John Wayne. The Horse Soldiers, 1959, colour, widescreen, John Ford's the director, starring two huge names, John Wayne, William Holden, both so big at the time in 1959 that in 1959 they both got paid $750,000 each to make The Horse Soldiers. At the time, biggest payment ever, any actor, actress for any movie. $750,000, so they got that. John Ford wanted to make the movie as real as possible, so much of it was actually filmed in Louisiana and Mississippi, where the action actually took place of The Horse Soldiers. So the movie starts straight off, boom, straight away. It's going to be a great Western. It's a fantastic wide view, a ridge line on the ridge line is a line of US cavalry on horseback riding along, and as if it's not visually great enough and exciting enough, the music is the cavalry song, I left my love I left, a-sleeping in a bed. I turned my back on my true love, go fighting Johnny Reb. I won't go on with the rest of it because it's not the best of singers, but it's a rousing start to a great movie, cavalry movie. And John Ford wanted to make it as realistic as possible. So, what's the incident I'm talking about? And that is Benjamin Grierson was an officer of the Union Cavalry, and for 17 days over April and May of 1863, he took 1,700 Union cavalry and went behind Confederate lines with a plan to cause chaos and mayhem and major diversion. A diversion because Grant was going to undertake the attack on Vicksburg. So all Grierson had to do was cause trouble by riding 1,000 kilometres through southern lines behind Confederate lines, and he did that over 17 days. Rode through South Tennessee, Mississippi, ended up at Baton Rouge in Louisiana. When he undertook his raid, during the course of their 1,000 kilometres, they tore up railways. If you see the movie, they create huge fires with the sleepers, and then they rest the railway tracks on the fires, and then they take the tracks when the middle is red hot and they bend them to ruin they bend the iron rails around telegraph poles to make them that they can't just, the Confederacy, they bend them so the Confederacy can't just put the tracks back after they've been ripped up. They burnt bridges. They freed, everywhere they went, they freed the slaves. They burned stores. They burned trains. They blew up locomotives. During the raid, Grierson sent troops, small troops, off on side diversionary attacks, so that even the few, there was not many Confederates that could have chased them because they were involved in the defence of Vicksburg. This was seen to be so successful that Grant agrees that Grierson's raid helped with the victory at Vicksburg. Now if you watch the movie, spoiler alert again, if you watch the movie, they attack Newton's Station. John Wayne and his men attack Newton's Station. Is now called Newton. It's a real town, and it was attacked in Grierson's raid. What is very interesting is that Grierson had sent a patrol on ahead to Newton Station. They got there, they found that they could start destroying things. They set fire to an ammunition store. The ammunition store was exploding, and obviously cartridges in the fire were going off as if they were being fired. And so Grierson and his men charged there, expecting the worst. And when they got to Newton Station, they found that it was so in control of the Union that some of the soldiers that had already got there had broken into the whiskey store and were having a few drinks. So what do you see in the movie about the attack on Newton Station and taking prisoners and the wounded? That is also true because Grierson's troops are remembered for the fact that they got all the wounded together. They were already wounded and a hospital at Newton Station, and they took all the wounded from the hospital and all the medicine and all the food, and they made sure everyone was safe before they burned the town. That's the true story of Newton Station, or Newton. And so you wonder why some people are critical of the horse soldiers and John Ford, when everything I'm telling you about, this is why this is the greatest Western ever made. Even to the point that William Holden's part is a as a surgeon, as the company surgeon. That really did happen. They really did have a surgeon that went with them. So the surgeon's name in the movie was actually Yule, Y-U-L-E. And at the end of The Horse Soldiers, William Holden says he's going to stay behind with the wounded even though he'll be taken prisoner. Yule actually did that. That really did happen. He stayed behind. And he was only a prisoner of war for 2 months before he was exchanged, because he was a doctor. It's not like he was some great military genius that would have been bad for the Confederacy to give back. It was humane to give Yule back in exchange. So a little bit of trivia about the movie, and that is that Grierson's Raid. Do you like ZZ Top? Steve, how can you be throwing ZZ Top into the best Western ever made? Well, ZZ Top's involved in the greatest Western ever made, and that's because Grierson's Raid started out from LaGrange, went through Tennessee, Mississippi, Louisiana, ended up in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Now, in the movie, The Horse Soldiers, what was supposed to happen, if you've seen the movie, you'll know there's a big fight at a bridge. Bridge gets blown up. That's how the Union get away, because the Confederacy come up, the bridge is blown up. The bridge was specially built for the movie so they could use it and then blow it to pieces. Many, many roles in the film were by people from Louisiana, Tennessee, Mississippi, those states. So wherever they were filming, in the swamps, it was locals that were used in the filming. Doesn't that also help make it one of the greatest Westerns ever made? And John Ford planned the big battle at the bridge. The bridge got blown up, and then Benjamin Grierson, that's the real guy, who then rode triumphantly into Baton Rouge with everyone, whoa! And that was how the movie was supposed to end. That's how The Horse Soldiers was supposed to end. Have you seen it? So in the big battle scene, a very dear friend of John Ford, a man who had worked with John Ford for many, many years, a well-known, much-loved, accomplished stuntman by the name of Fred Kennedy, born in 1909, many, many dangerous roles in John Ford, a stuntman for Hollywood, but was in a lot of John Ford, John Wayne movies. And poor old Fred Kennedy, in a movie before The Horse Soldiers, had done a dangerous stunt and had broken his neck. He recovered from that. He came back to work, and in the battle scene that closes The Horse Soldiers, Fred Kennedy has a horrendous horse accident and breaks his neck again and dies at the age of 48. And they say that John Ford was so completely devastated by this death of a friend that he had no more interest in making the movie, and that he said, this is the end. We're not going to do the Baton Rouge scene. We're not going to ride triumphantly into Baton Rouge. So that never happened. Now when you think about it, you watch The Horse Soldiers today, the greatest Western ever made, and it goes for 2 hours, 120 minutes, without the triumphant raid into Baton Rouge. So really, what that boils down to is that probably other things got added into the movie. And so when I said to you about how devastated John Ford was, there is a couple of other things. John Ford was already on the back step making The Horse Soldiers, because John Wayne is said to have not had a lot of interest in making The Horse Soldiers, because he was fixated on his upcoming project, his next project, which was The Alamo. So John Wayne was not really 100% switched on with making it. Next, William Holden hated John Ford, and the two of them were constantly at loggerheads. Next, all signed up costumed, all ready to go. The woman, who is a woman of colour, I'm not sure what you're supposed to say these days, but she was supposed to play the slave of the love interest in the movie, Lukey. And when she got this, she's all ready to go. She's a famous, at the time, she was a really famous tennis player, a black tennis player. And when she read the script, she refused because she said the dialogue she was expected to deliver was too racist. It was Negro racist. I have to be careful with what I say because of words of those, that era might not be appropriate for today. Let's just leave it at the fact she was a black woman and refused when she saw the script, and so John Ford quickly rewrote all her lines in a way that didn't offend her. So as if he didn't already have all those hurdles behind him, and the fact that he's making a massive movie on a huge scale, stacks of extras, actors, and all of those horses and lining, and the movie was going over budget. And so when poor Fred Kennedy got killed, that was the end of it, and John Ford lost interest. So the movie came out. When it came out, it was predicted to make 16 to 20 million in its first week. Made 16,800,000 in its first week, so it can't be seen as a failure. But there you go. There's Stephen Cody's version of the greatest Western ever made. And what I think is you're going to be stuck on a desert island. You can only take one movie with you. It's the movie you're going to watch. I'm keeping him up. Sorry, mate, I'm keeping you up. It's the movie you're going to watch over and over again because you can only take one. So but for me, it's a damn close toss-up between the outlaw Josie Wales and the horse soldiers. But at the end of the day, if I had to pick one, it would be the horse soldiers, simply because US cavalry and so many horses and great horse stunts. They just keep coming to mind. In the swamp, falling off the trail into the water in the swamp. Those blokes, flat chat gallop, holding the flag, jumping fences. Great, great movie. There you go, my version of the greatest Western ever made. And let the controversy begin. Cheers.